This is the 46 of 46 podcast Summit Sessions, where we'll talk all things Adirondack, backcountry, and beyond. From high peak stories and adventures to trail tips and tricks, we'll dive deep into the heart of these mountains and the people who passionately climb them. Adirondack maps and spruce traps, bushwhacks and backpacks. It's all here on the 46 of 46 Summit Sessions. Hey everyone, and welcome to a very special double shot of the Summit Sessions here on the 46 of 46 podcast this week. 2 episodes, 2 stories, 1 goal. 2 incredible women out trail running in the high peaks, both racing against one another in a way, to complete all 46 high peaks of the Adirondacks to set the first officially documented, female-supported fastest known time, referred to as the FKT. An FKT is exactly what it sounds like, the fastest known time that someone has documented and completed a route, a trail, or a mountain range, and these records are logged on fastestknowntime.com. Last week, Virginia native and professional triathlete Alyssa Godesky and Adirondack local professional trail and ultra runner Sarah Kies both set out in a friendly competition race of sorts, looking to set the female-supported FKT of the 46 high peaks here in the Adirondack Park. The supported routes typically fall in the 150 to 160 mile range with approximately 60,000 feet of elevation gain. And to put that into perspective, the elevation gain to hike Mount Everest is 11,447 feet. Yes, you can say wow. We're all saying it's okay. And spoiler alert, both women absolutely crushed it and completed their routes with incredible times. This first episode, I'll be speaking with Alyssa Godesky, who completed all 46 high peaks and officially set the FKT with a finishing time of 3 days, 16 hours, and 16 minutes, starting Monday, August 17th at 4 a.m. in the Seward Range and ending Friday the 21st at 10:16 p.m. on Giant. Alyssa is a professional triathlete from Virginia, the host of her own podcast called the Iron Women Podcast, the current supported FKT holder for the Long Trail in Vermont, which she completed in 5 days, 2 hours, 37 minutes, and now the fastest known time holder for the supported Adirondack 46 high peaks. Alyssa, welcome, and thanks for coming on the 46 of 46 podcast, and a big congratulations on setting the FKT.
Thank you, James. I'm excited to chat with you.
Happy to have you here. I'm sure you received tons of messages from people while you were out there on the trail or since you finished, but so many people were following along yours and Sarah's trackers and talking all about it on the Adirondack hiking social media pages and in all those forums. So it was really fun to see all the buzz and excitement from people around here.
I'm so glad to hear that. You know, it was probably midway through because, you know, there's not a lot of service out there, but around day 3, I started to kind of, you know, my boyfriend was with me at the time and I was like, I think these people know what's going on kind of thing. And we had no idea that, you know, an article had been pushed out and people knew, and just the response from the community has been like literally during the hike and then afterwards has been amazing. So I'm super grateful for that.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that. So I take it you're back home in Virginia now?
I am. Yes. I got home. I had a couple more days afterwards to kind of recover a bit before the drive back to Charlottesville.
All right, cool. And how recovered are you at this point? We're about, 6 days out now from when you finished?
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't think you really know. My barometer is usually with sleep. Like once I start to have kind of normal sleep again, that's a good indication that things are coming around, and I'm not quite there yet. I'm definitely still caught in a little bit of a disrupted sleep pattern, I think, from the limited sleep I got out on the trail. So that's not, you know, it's not terrible. It's better to have disrupted sleep in your own bed. But I'm definitely still waking up and feeling my toes and my feet swelling up a little bit and things like that. So I'm just trying to stay active with dog walks and some super, super easy bike spins on my trainer inside just to keep things moving and recovering. But it's coming along, but definitely not hopping out for any big adventures anytime soon.
Sure. Makes sense. So let's start with a little background about yourself. Just give us a little background on how you got into the outdoors and racing, and at what point did triathlons come into the mix?
Yeah, so I have been racing professionally with triathlon since 2014, but it was really around 2006 that I found endurance sports. So I spent my first 2 years of undergrad at the Naval Academy, actually, and while I was there, they had the Navy marathon team, and through trying to get a spot on the marathon team to run marathons with them, it's a roundabout way. They didn't have a marathon for me to use as a tryout, but they happened to have the JFK 50 mile. So I, somewhat of a whim, a few weeks beforehand, signed up for the JFK 50 mile back then. And they basically had said, if you finish the race, you're on the marathon team. And so I did finish the race and I was on the team, but it also began this kind of love affair with endurance sports because I finished and was like, that was so rad. I want to keep doing that. So from there, I kept running trails and doing some ultras. And I ended up leaving the Naval Academy after 2 years, but I transferred to the University of Virginia, where trail running is super easy to do. It's a great place for that. And I was lucky. I started working at a running store where I had a couple mentors kind of take me in and show me some of the ropes early on as well. But then I graduated from UVA, moved up to Baltimore City, entered, the real world. And trail running isn't as easy in Baltimore City as it was in Charlottesville. It was also 2008 by then. And, the ultra running boom was probably starting to happen at that point, but definitely hadn't happened. And a lot of the ultra running crowd, they were great people, still my friends to this day, but they were definitely older than I was. And so I was searching for friends my age at that point and fell in with some road runners and some triathletes while I was in Baltimore. So that started, I kind of pivoted at that point more towards the road scene a little bit, though I was still active on the trails. I kind of started to prioritize more of the road stuff. And the transition to Ironman came pretty easy because I had done some long ultra marathons and I figured, well, if I can run for 10 hours, surely I could swim, bike, and run for, 10 plus hours. If I get to do 3 sports, that's easy. So, how naive I was, but, that led me to sign up for my first, Ironman. And again, it was something that I fell in love with instantly and I wanted to do more of it. So from there, it was around 2010 when I realized that it was a really cool sport, but I had no clue exactly what I was doing at that point. And I was trying to use, fundamentals from coaching myself with running to triathlon, but there was a lot of holes. So I hired a coach, Hillary Biscay, who's still my coach to this day. And she was the right pick for me for sure because she had a mix already of ultramarathon experience, time on trails, and Ironman and triathlon and stuff like that. So we were kind of the perfect match. And I guess you could say the rest is history. So, since then I've done 33 Ironmans and I think just around 50 ultramarathons. And I've started to have other adventures with chasing FKTs and stuff like that. But I would say in the last, 2 to 3 years, what used to be a triathlon career with a very small side of ultra running continued through it has kind of more evolved to half and half. And, I'm pushing more for more trail time more and more, and it's paying off at least.
Cool. 33 Ironmans. That is a lot of long distance endurance activity for sure.
It is.
And at the beginning, when you first started, why do a 26.2 mile marathon when you could just jump right into a 50-mile race,
Well, exactly, right? I figured
Let's
I could
just
just
go
work
for
backwards from there.
Yeah, for sure. If you can do 50 miles, you obviously can do 26 miles.
Yeah, people ask about that thought process, and I just have to say, I truly don't know what my thought process was, but I think I was just young and naive, and I had the ability of youth, I think, to help me through some of those miles.
Sure. Cool. So now being so active in the Ironman scene, did you do an Ironman in Lake Placid, and that's how you heard about the Adirondacks, or how did you hear about this place?
I did, yeah. So in 2013, I was racing the Ironman in Lake Placid, and it was the year that I was really looking to capitalize on and qualify to be able to race as a professional. I wanted to qualify to race at the World Championships in Kona, and so a lot was kind of riding on that race in Lake Placid. And so Memorial Day weekend of then was probably my first real experience in Lake Placid, I think, where I took a weekend and, stayed in Keene and did a lot of training on the Ironman course, and just was like, my eyes were totally open to like, wow, like places like this exist. And it's a perfect place for triathlon. And at that point, I really hadn't even thought about the whole other area that I'm looking at while I'm riding around on my bike, right? Like I didn't even really know about the high peaks were right there and things like that. And so that was 2013 when I went and raced. And then since then I've returned almost every year, either to coach, or to just see friends race and that sort of thing, in Lake Placid, because who needs a real excuse to go up there, right?
Sure,
so,
especially in the summertime.
Yeah, it's an easy trip. And then somewhere, soon after I did Ironman, I had heard about Jan Welford and his record with the high peaks, and I think I had just run into a family friend kind of who was talking about being a 46er, and just asked a few questions, and they said, oh, well, there's a guy that's done them all really quick. And I started following the old version of the fastest known time website, which was like on the pro boards. It was like a super old, basic web forum. And I just was fascinated, I guess, and so it kind of stuck in my mind, but I also knew that I felt like I didn't have the skills and the knowledge to really ever do something like that. And then, a few years down the line, when I also had seen about Nikki Kimball's record on the long trail, and that to me seemed much more manageable because you just follow the white blazes down the trail. And that's something I am familiar with, right? From ultra running and things like that. So that was something to me, I was like, okay. And when I jumped on that in 2018 and it went pretty well, immediately in my head, the Adirondacks kind of stuck out. And I was like, I think it's time for me to start exploring off-road in the Lake Placid area and see, do those trails compare and what kind of skills I would need to make something like that happen.
Okay, cool. So now at what point did you decide to go after the supported FKT of the high peaks? When did that decision get made?
Pretty soon after the long trail, I started to tell kind of my inner circle that would be next.
Okay, cool.
So it was by the end of 2018 that I had, made the decision. I knew it wouldn't be for probably a couple of years because I had a lot to learn. I had to learn navigation and mapping compass skills, and I wanted to do all of that stuff right. So, but I knew that was going to be next. And then, but it wasn't until last September, when I climbed my first high peak and, really started to get to know the trails and to start scouting things and to start really taking a hard look at what a route would look like and what pacing could be out there and that sort of thing.
And now at what point did you and Sarah kind of coordinate that you're going to both go for this in a friendly race of sorts? It's obviously not a race, but at what point did you know that she was going for it? You guys obviously know each other.
Yeah, so we were kind of Instagram friends, and I had come up for a couple weeks in July to just finalize my route and get some more trail time on the actual trails. And I had reached out to her via Instagram and just kind of said I was in the area. I was, doing some scouting to put together a supported attempt for August. And does she do it? Is she running? Does she want to go for a run? That kind of thing. And she was like, oh, well, I'm thinking about doing a supported attempt in August. And so we were like, whoa, what are the odds of that? But I guess in a COVID year, the odds are actually probably higher than normal. So it wasn't too surprising. And so we just kind of continued that conversation, and, she asked what dates I was looking at, and they overlapped, one of those dates overlapped with one of her dates. And we both kind of were like, wouldn't it be fun if to do it? Like, why not? Right.
Yeah.
There was no women's time on